Eleanor, this is the first Broadway show where you're making your debut as lead choreographer. What is the pressure like knowing you don't have one show this season, but two? Right there behind you.
Is it my
two posters?
Listen, when Michael Mayer called me in the fall of 2019 and said, I'm doing this revival of a show. We need a choreographer. I would love for you to make your Broadway debut in that show. There's tapping in it. I know you don't do that, so we're going to hire an amazing tap choreographer to be a part of it. Are you interested? And I was like, I'll think about it. And I was screaming. I muted it. I was like, ah! And I was like, yes, I would love to do that. And, that was supposed to be fall of 2020. And I feel like just the anticipation and waiting to actually see this come to our opening night this Sunday is super exciting. And during that 2-year kind of pause, John Rando, the director of Mr. Saturday Night, saw Little Shop before everything closed, loved the show, and was looking for a choreographer for this new Broadway show. It's based off of a movie. So I'm gonna tell you right now, it is the most exciting and most nerve-wracking thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life.
How did the two of you work together as choreographers on the show? What was that like to complement each other?
I wish we had had an opportunity to collaborate more. I'll say that off the top. And I also understand that, like, in a Broadway, in a fast process, things have to be sort of like delegated and divvied up in a way so that everybody can work as efficiently as possible. And Eleanor, I do remember like us having like very brief conversations before we even got into the room about like, well, what is going to anchor both of our things? And I think we came to the conclusion I came to, and I think we came to together was like, well, the music absolutely does that. Like, and so if we honor what what the music is telling us to do, and if we're really listening to that, then vibe wise, vocabulary wise, groove wise, rhythmic wise, that will sort of end up doing this.
Where did you draw? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the other thing that we both bring to the table in our choreography is honoring the era that it's from, but also making it feel like when you're watching it, the excitement of 2022. And I think that because we're both women of color, that is just inherently in our movement separately, but also what brings the movement together and feel cohesive throughout the entire show. And it was exciting, because rat-tat-tat, I was like, girl, do your thing. Like that. App numbers are her numbers, and they're stunning and amazing. But then it was fun to like collaborate on like who taught her everything she knows. It's a combo of Jared showing, his amazing talent and Jane Lynch shimmying Jesus. You know what I mean? That was a really fun way to combine our sensibilities. But exactly, I think it's just that we felt the music the same way. And that's why I feel like the show feels cohesive between the two of us.
How do you even draw inspiration from the 1920s? The show literally is 100 years ago, takes place from the Roaring 20s.
Yeah. I mean, for me, if I may answer first, as a TAP student, for life, we are very steeped in like what the legacy and the culture and the history is of the art form. And so for me, even though I am a contemporary tap dancer in 2022, my knowledge, the knowledge that is in my body and in my brain and in my feet and in my heart is of the origins of the form, which to me predate into this 1700s, and maybe before that. I know for me, I leaned on what I know historically to be true, and that is that the people that were part of my tap dancing legacy were part of the Ziegfeld legacy. Like the Nicholas brothers were part of the Ziegfeld legacy. John Bubbles was part of that legacy. All of those, those jazz artists. So to me, Baby Lawrence, Sammy Davis Jr., all of them are sort of like steeped into that. They're baked into that history, which makes it very easy for me to transplant that into Eddie Ryan. And then consequently Eddie Ryan to Rat Tat Tat in the second act of the show. So it's his rhythmic sensibility as a Black artist, as a Black tap dancer, as a Black musician, of that time when it was bubbling. Like tap dancing was thriving in those 1920s, 1900s, 1930s, 1940s. So that to me was like easy.
And for me, there was so many different types of numbers in the show, so it was like trying to stay true to what were the Follies, how did they look, how did the Follies
Mm-hmm.
feel on stage, what do these showgirls do. And a lot of the times, like in my head I was like, oh, it's going to be wild, like pancakes. They are just elegance and lines and lift, right? So for me, looking back at footage of that era,
Mm-hmm.
and was trying to like highlight what are the key things that
Mm-hmm.
really stand out to me and how can I use that in choreography. So that's how I kind of felt with like at least the Follies. But then there's numbers like right when we go to Henry Street and everyone's drinking on the block, they're not going to be dancing like Follies dancers. So for me it was a lot of watching like 1910s 1920s like club dancing as if like social dancing, how socially would they move and what kind of interesting ways did they create shapes with their body, how can I use that to influence my work.
What was the discussions like having Beanie dance as much as she did?
Oh my God.
Like we are, Io and I are her biggest fans, truly. Like we are truly her biggest fans. And what I will say is you as someone that has worked with principal actors before, you really never know how confident or up to movement they're going to be. So a lot of the times, and I don't know, I feel like I also felt like this, you have like version A, B, C, D, like what versions are you feel comfortable doing? And Beanie every single time was like, more, I want to do more, let me learn the whole dance break, let me learn, like there was never a conversation of like, well, we'll do the altered version of what she was like, no, I want the whole thing
Yes,
as
the
is.
whole thing. I mean, with Rat Tat, like she wanted to learn like the whole thing. She would do the whole number. It's just that she has other things to do, like sing and say lines and things like that. But it was so exciting to see, number one, that she had the skill, because the other thing is like I didn't have to teach her how to do a time step or a flap or shuffle. Like she actually knew how to do all those things. But the fact that I think that she was up for like the challenge with so much joy and like determination to do it was like a dream. I mean, it really was.
What does your persistence teach young dancers pining for the successful careers that you both have?
This is perfect that you're asking that. I ran into, when I was running to a rehearsal, a colleague of mine that I haven't seen in like literally 10 years. And the first thing she said to me was, you've been grinding. And it is so exciting to see that people are finally seeing the work that's being put in. It is, musical theater and Broadway was never really my ultimate dream. And, we can go into a longer conversation about what are dreams and goals and achieving them and success and all of that. Because growing up, I just wanted to be like a contemporary dancer. I wanted to work at like Alvin Ailey and be a modern dancer. And through that shift, then found my absolute joy and love of choreography. And so my dream is choreographing. And for me it was never necessarily like this one goal is the ultimate thing and after that I don't have to do anything else. Like my goal is to continue to do what I love, which is to choreograph. And a lot of the time, and basically up until now, I have been an associate for only white men. And so it is quite a beautiful moment to be sharing this experience with another woman of color who is also spearheading and being the role model for future female and Black and women of color, to show them that we deserve for a long time to be recognized and to be here. And so I just hope that this shows people to put in the work, stick around, wait for the time, and take all these opportunities to show your excellence. And I am just thrilled that we
Yeah.
get to do this together.
Yeah. I love that. If I may add to that, I just want to say that for me, um, I echo what Eleanor just said, and I also want to just punctuate the fact that sometimes you don't see the space for yourself, you know, and you make the way. And I think my particular journey as a woman in this art form, which was very male dominated, it is now changing. But when I was first on the scene, the focus was on young men, and it was on men, period. And I was so determined to be a part of it because it called to me in such a strong way that I made a way for myself. I made a space. So when those jams and the circles happened, and they were mostly men, I put myself in those spaces. I showed up to everything, and it didn't matter to me that I didn't necessarily see myself. I knew that I wanted to be there, you know. And I think that in many ways that, and I hadn't thought of it until recently, but I'm like, I think that that is also what Fanny Brice did. She said, I don't see, there's no space for me, but I don't see anybody who looks like me, who does this thing in this way that I feel, but I'm going to forge ahead and move forward. And I think I would say to those young people, yeah, like just if you don't see a space, make it.